Negotiations resumed here in Belém, the Brazilian Amazon, this Friday after a fire broke out in the COP30 venue on Thursday afternoon, and the venue had then to be evacuated, hitting the conference at a key moment the day before the last, when there were intense discussions about the proposal of a roadmap to end dependency on fossil fuels, and particularly how to finance this process. China has been participating in all these discussions and has been an active participant. And actually what we hear from observers is that the absence of the United States in this conference actually shifts the focus to China. Among the highlights of China's participation was the announcement of the country's new updated targets for 2035 when it comes to carbon emissions. China has included all of the greenhouse gases within this structural new move of announcing new targets. This has been seen as a very important step by observers, even though there is still a call for more details on how this will be implemented. China has been playing a key role in the decarbonization by the development and export of green technologies such as green vehicles and also batteries. And that's important for China, as the country is still nowadays the world's largest emitter, also because of a strong presence of coal in China's energy mix. But the country said here at COP30 that they have a plan and a goal of reducing those emissions and then reaching their targets by 2035. Another highlight of China's participation was the Chinese pavilion that's actually very much at the entrance of COP30, attracts a lot of attention. The fire on Thursday actually happened not far from the Chinese pavilion, not in the Chinese pavilion itself, but it was not far from there. But until then, the Chinese pavilion, one of the highlights also of this conference, with many events on green technology, on reducing of emissions, and also on how to finance development for the developing countries of the world so they can also reach their goals of decarbonization. So for the last day of COP, discussions are expected to be intense, and efforts to try and reach some kind of consensus so this COP can end with a strong declaration of the countries that are here present at Belém for the COP30. Paulo Cabral, CGTN, Belém, Brazil.
Let's get some more insight into that draft deal and also the impasse they're facing at this year's meeting. We're joined by Kumi Naidu, who is the president at the Fossil Fuel Treaty Initiative. Great to have you on the show with us, sir. Now, apparently, as we just mentioned, all mention of fossil fuels has now been dropped from that draft deal, which is currently under negotiation. What's your take on the draft deal, especially in terms of proposing any sort of roadmap for transition away from fossil fuels going forward?
Thank you very much. Just take a step back for your viewers and listeners. Fossil fuels is oil, coal, and gas. The main cause of what's driving climate change, 86%, is our addiction and our dependence on fossil fuels. This is not new. We've known it for at least 3 decades now. So this is as absurd as Alcoholics Anonymous holding a big global conference, and at the end of it, they don't have the backbone to mention alcohol in the outcome document, when it is fossil fuels that are driving this process. So it's deeply alarming that the latest draft goes against what President Lula said in the opening of COP30, when he said we need to put fossil fuels at the center. But the good news is, this morning, 24 countries, and more countries will join in the course of the day, I'm pretty certain, came together calling for it to be included. They've written an open letter to the presidency. And more importantly, they're also saying, we are not going to hang around anymore. So Colombia and a coalition of organizations backed by the Fossil Fuel Treaty Initiative have announced that in April next year, we will be having a conference on the just transition away from fossil fuels, a diplomatic conference that we hope that will lead to negotiations ultimately towards a binding treaty. While negotiations dodge the issue, countries are stepping up to build a roadmap, and the process might have to be ultimately outside of the UN process, because for 30 years we have been negotiating and we have not been able to address the power of the fossil fuel industry. I'll just say one of the reasons we don't make progress, that the COP has been captured by the fossil fuel industry. For every 15 delegates from government to civil society, one of them comes from the fossil fuel industry. 16,000 lobbyists a year holding back progress. And even at this last moment, we call on countries to do the right thing, do what President Lula said in the opening session, and have a plan for a phase out of fossil fuels.
And it is certainly interesting that you say that a roadmap may have to come from outside the COP30. It is a good thing we've seen this countries pushing against this draft text. But of course, Brazil has been criticized for the fact that it sort of sounds like a take it or leave it situation. So what are the chances you think that we can remain within that COP30, that we are facing a reality of a no-deal scenario as well?
So that is certainly a possibility. This meeting is supposed to end this evening, as you pointed out. There's a chance that it'll go on until tomorrow because we won't have a deal by the end of this evening. But let's be very clear. A take it or leave it approach only works if the proposal that is being put there to take it or leave it meets the moment. What's on the table right now, if Brazil were to put what's on the table right now in a take it or leave it position, this proposal does not. When a draft is this far away from justice and what the science requires, the danger isn't walking away and getting no deal. The danger is accepting a compromise proposal and people feel that, oh, okay, we've made progress. So a no-deal outcome would simply undermine what several countries are already demonstrating. They are willing to chart a credible transition pathway themselves, and Colombia's announcement today also shows that certain governments are advancing the type of international cooperation that is needed to address the root cause of the climate crisis. I think there's a lot to play for in the remaining 12 hours. I still think there's a chance that the fossil fuel language will be in. I am not highly confident that the language will be in as strong as it needs to be.